Welcome to the Whiskey Explorer. Thanks so much for tuning in for another episode, guys. And if this is your first time on the channel, if you could please do us a quick favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, help us grow the community here at the Whiskey Explorer. And tonight we have got Booker's Bourbon from the Jim Beam Small Batch Collection. All right, so in Canada here, unfortunately, we get Booker's only once a year, so things are done much differently. In the United States, you've got, I believe it's 4 releases of Booker's per year. We only get the one, and it's always the first one from the year. So this is, on our label here, you guys have like the fancy pictures on your label, and I'll show you guys a close-up of the bottle here in the B-roll. But here in Canada, we just get a little label. It's the same label, but instead of it being a picture and kind of a description like Kathleen's Batch or Pigskin Batch or Backyard Barbecue or Kentucky Chew, some of the famous kind of ones that are out there. So we just get this little sticker on here, and it says batch number 2021-01E. So the 01 refers to the first release of the year, and the E refers to the export market. So it does say on here 6 years, 11 months, and from the proof, which is 65.65% alcohol by volume, or 125.3 proof, we actually know that this one here is Donohoe's batch, which was the first release of 2021 for Booker's. So that's the batch we've got here. And this, like in the States, has just skyrocketed in price. So if you guys can believe this, this here sits on the shelf for $117.99 Canadian. I've seen it at private liquor stores for even more, at about $120 plus tax. Don't forget, here in BC, we have a horrible 15% liquor tax on top of that, so we have to pay that as well. So it ends up being a very expensive bottle out the door. Luckily for me, I didn't pay close to that. I got this on sale in Alberta for $65 Canadian. So $65 Canadian is actually a steal of a deal, because Booker's goes for about $100 US now. And my personal viewpoint on that is just way too high for what's in the bottle, in my personal opinion. But without further ado, let's get to looking at this bourbon here. We'll give it a quick look in the glass before we go in for nosing here. So looking in the glass here, it's actually a nice medium kind of amber color, kind of almost going towards the copper in color tone there. So it's 6 years, 11 months, so almost 7 years old in the barrel there. So we would expect some nice kind of color out of that one. It is a nice color, kind of a medium kind of amber or tending towards a light copper color. Let's go in for the nose. Cheers. Actually, the nose on this has really opened up a lot, and it's actually really pleasant and inviting. Quick little, I won't give too much of a history on this because you can look it up online. There's way better information out there and lots more. But this was sort of the brainchild of Booker No, of Jim Beam Distillery fame, of course. One of the original master distillers from the Jim Beam family. And this is what he wanted to kind of put out, was an uncut, unfiltered, cask strength or barrel proof bourbon that would give you all the flavor of Jim Beam and kind of be a signature bottle for the distillery to showcase what they're capable of. And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was probably one of the first of the kind of modern distilleries to kind of market and present a barrel proof bourbon. I think that a lot of other distilleries weren't quite doing that, weren't quite adventurous enough to put out the product at cask strength. They were always kind of watering down to make it more palatable for the mass audience, right? So I do give them credit for that. Also, what's kind of cool is I just heard on a podcast that this is actually basically the original design they've been going with since the inception of Booker's, which I think was kind of in the late 80s or early 90s. So that's pretty cool that they've kind of kept their design bottle all the way through. I will say it does have good Jim Beam wax on it. The older kind of Knob Creek 9 years and Knob Creek single barrels were notorious for the bad wax. This one had a really nice pull. I just pulled the tab, it opened right away, so no problems there. All right, let's get back to the nose here. Cheers. So right away, again, I always pick this up on Jim Beam, but there's that funky peanut note, sweet peanut, kind of circus peanut, like what you get in the Cracker Jack kind of packs with the peanuts that are in there. So you definitely get a lot of sweet toffee, vanilla, caramels mixed in with that sweet kind of peanut or peanut shell kind of note to it. Funky peanut note right away. There's also a nice cherry note on this. So there's like deep dark cherry, really nice kind of fruity, deep dark fruit notes, almost like jammy quality to it. I really like that. Almost like a raspberry jam. There's a nice strong strawberry note on this, and then some sweet creamy vanilla in the background, a little bit of sweet oak as well, brown sugar. This smells very sweet, almost like a dessert whiskey. Molasses, honey, brown sugar. Lots of caramel and toffee, almost like a Werther's Original. And that cherry note is very strong here, almost a medicinal cherry. So like you guys in the States that are watching from over across the pond there, you'd call it like a Luden's cough drop, like that cherry cough drop. Here we call it like cherry Vicks, but essentially it's that medicinal kind of cherry note that we've grown to kind of, well, I have anyways, love in bourbon. All right, let's go in here for a taste. So on the palate, cheers. Nice big sip there. Definitely wasn't shy on that sip. You get every bit of that cask strength experience from this, or barrel proof bourbon. If you're looking for an uncut, unfiltered bourbon, I don't think you can go wrong here with this Booker's, the barrel proof. I like it way more than I originally did. When this was like at the neck pour or even a little bit beyond, so like when it was kind of like a quarter of the way down, I really didn't like it at all. It was really bitter. There was tons of oak tannin. It was really strong, overpowering kind of heat. It's opened up beautifully, I have to say. The rush that I got at the very beginning of the palate was all that deep, dark cherry note. I love that note in bourbon. It's here in spades. I also got a little bit of cherry cola, almost reminding me of like a Stag Junior. And then there's a really strong kind of transition in mid to late palate and finish of the baking spices. Tons of cinnamon, black pepper, cloves, allspice. I will say this also, obviously barrel proof bourbon, you're expecting the mouthfeel to come in. It's fully mouth coating and you get that mouth coating right away. Fully envelops the mouth and you get a really long finish to this as well. A nice Kentucky hug going down. So cherries, vanilla, sweet oak, brown sugar, baking spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice. Nice Kentucky hug. A lot of depth and complexity to this flavor, I'll say that for sure. So this has gone from something that I really didn't enjoy to something that I'm actually enjoying quite a bit. So I'm happy that this bottle has opened up this way. Really happy about that, actually. Let's go in for a second sip. Cheers. Honestly, this has really become a beautiful bourbon. If I had have reviewed this like 2 or 3 months ago when the bottle was at a quarter in there, like, you know, a quarter of it gone, 3/4 left, would have been a totally different review. But I'm happy to say this is a very, very, very nice barrel proof bourbon. Tons of cherry on the palate, a nice Kentucky hug. The heat isn't off-putting at all. There's a lot of vanilla sweetness there as well. It's a rich, creamy mouthfeel, butterscotch, caramel, brown sugar. The mid palate is a little bit drying, so there's a little bit of oak tannins in there, a little drying aspect to it. But what you get with that as well is the baking spices. So you get a nice strong clove note, cinnamon, a little bit of cracked black pepper. Nice, very long finish to this. Very satisfying bourbon. I think for me to grab this at $65 Canadian was an absolute steal. To give you guys an idea, in the States, that's about $50 American. So it was an absolute steal at that price. I couldn't pass it up. I hadn't bought a bottle of Booker's yet because of the price point. So happy to snag it for that price. And I think if you're a fan of Jim Beam and if you're a fan of barrel proof bourbon, you can't go wrong with picking up a Booker's. So Thanks so much for joining me for this review, guys. Until next time, may your sales be full and your drams be fuller. Cheers.